I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Anchorage Assembly. There are several of us on the phone, so it's a little bit more disorganized than usual. But I would like to begin with a roll call. Madam Clerk?
Harriet Drummond. Here. Dick Traney.
He will be about 10 minutes late, I've been told.
Paul Honeman.
Here.
Elvie Gray Jackson.
And she will be joining us at 6 p.m. over the phone.
Debbie Osander.
Here.
Ernie Hall.
Here.
Bill Starr.
Here. Adam
Trombley.
Here.
Jennifer Johnston. Here. Patrick Flynn. Chris Birch.
Here.
Madam Clerk, we have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you. With that, Mr. Flynn, could you lead us in the pledge? Mr. Mayor, do you have any report for us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. A couple things. The Mayor's Energy Task Force met this morning, and amongst other presentations, we were fortunate to be able to catch the good folks from Escopeta, who literally with a one-day request were kind enough to come and share about their recent announcement in Cook Inlet of a potential 3.5 trillion cubic feet discovery. And so we got briefed on kind of what the initial analysis looks like. They clearly have to do a lot more work next spring before they can truly define the resource. But if it's even half of 3.5 trillion cubic feet recoverable, that satisfies South Central needs for 20 years. And so the hard work everyone did on this body and in the legislature to incentivize Cook Inlet exploration in 2010 looks to be already showing some rewards, so we're real pleased about that. Next week, of course, is our Education Summit. It's Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and we are pleased to announce that we have worked out all the details with GCI and that we will be able to stream the event live on Channel 1. And so folks who want to participate, at least as far as viewing the goings-on, will have the ability to do so. And one of the key presenters is in town already. He's actually out visiting schools. He wanted to come early and really get a first-hand look at our district and some of our good things and some of our challenges, and so it's great to have him. That's Sam Abrams, and good to have him in town. Today I had the distinct honor of handing out a 40-year pin to Jerry Hansen, who we all know in our PM&E department, and I think, Jerry, go ahead and stand up. We got to wave at you. Yep. I don't think in my tenure, 9 years on the Assembly and 2.5 years as mayor, that I've had the honor of a 40-year pin being presented. So it's really something very unique and very special. And thank you for all your service, Jerry. And then just a little side note: there was handed out today, just as you came in, a list of parks projects. Yeah. And the reason for the handout is this is the we met today with the Parks Foundation. We would have had this list available to you 2 weeks ago, but as you know, Beth Nordland had a family emergency and we were unable to meet with her with the death in the family. So we met today. These are the projects that will go into our book if you guys so approve, but the monies will be directed to the foundation to manage these projects. So I encourage your support of the Parks Foundation projects. And I think, Mr. Flynn, are you going to make that amendment? Thank you. Yeah. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. I wanted to, if I could, just take a minute to have Ski update everybody on snow removal. Obviously, the first snowfall of the year always leads to questions about when, where, how, and Ski's going to give us a briefing.
I think that's needed. We're all getting calls.
Yes, of course we had the snowfall Sunday and we started our plow operations full bore, which we normally would, and then we had another storm the following day, which ended yesterday roughly about 10:30 in the morning, so that started the plow out again because we have to go back and hit all the arterials and collectors, pull off of the residentials. We got back in residentials this morning, and if all works out well, we should be 100% complete by tomorrow evening.
Mr. Traney has a question.
Are we sanding?
Absolutely.
would you have them check C Street? Because I just came from Elmendorf to here, and there is no sand. You should see the mess that's out there.
I will pass that on to the state of Alaska.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and just, as a reminder, A Street, C Street, Northern Lights, Benson, Diamond Boulevard, Muldoon, Tudor, the highways are state roads. We do some small portions of those, but for the most part, if you're on any of those big roads, that is our state of Alaska responsibility. So.
Thank you. And for the record, Mr. Trainee has obviously joined us now, so thank you. With that, the only announcement I really have is to explain where some of our members are. Ms. Johnston is at AML, which is basically the municipal leagues of local governments throughout Alaska meet. She's up in Fairbanks right now. And Ms. Drummond and Ms. Gray Jackson are at the National League of Cities meeting in Phoenix, and Mr. Trainee will be joining them soon. The only meetings I have to really announce is on the 18th. We will be meeting with the Anchorage Caucus from 2 to 4 at the Denina Center. So with that, I will go down and Mr. Birch, do you have any committee reports to give or announcements?
I would just say briefly that I did meet with the Government Relations Committee of the Anchorage Convention and Visitors Bureau, which went well, and we had a little bit of discussion regarding some new projects, the South Denali Access Project, for instance, and also the issues regarding the film incentive. And then the Chamber of Commerce actually had a board meeting last week as well, and they're looking to structure, I think Mr. Hall and I have talked about maybe coordinating a couple of, I guess, meet and greets, if you will, with assembly members, and we'll be approaching the chair with that later. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday we had our meeting of the Legislative Committee, and as a result of that discussion, you have the latest and greatest version of the legislative program in front of you with a few more amendments to go, and hopefully we'll get this addressed tonight. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Johnston, do you have anything to share with us?
Yes, I'm tentatively trying to schedule a meeting for the Enterprise Committee a week from Thursday at noon to discuss the solid waste service increase in tipping fees.
Thank you. Mr. Trombley?
No report.
Mr. Starr?
No report.
Mr. Hall?
No report.
Mr. Holdman?
Madam Chair, with the fact that we've got so many assembly members out, I'd like to see if we could postpone the Public Safety Committee till a week from tomorrow, so the 16th, I believe.
So you're rescheduling that
Schedule
committee?
that at this time to make sure we accommodate for members' attendance. And we'll have a pretty full agenda, but we'll try to get everything together for the next assembly meeting for each.
Could you repeat that the time and once
Should
more?
be
for-
noon to 1 at the Assembly Members Conference Room, 155. I believe it's the 16th. Let me look and double check. Yes,
good.
Wednesday the 16th.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Trainee?
Nothing, ma'am.
Let's see. Ms. Drummond, do you have anything?
No report, but thanks for asking. I wasn't too clear, Madam Chair, on the location of the rescheduled Public Safety Committee meeting.
You said the Assembly Conference Room, Ms. Drummond.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. With that, the addendum and the laid on the table items are before us. Motion would be nice.
Move to incorporate. Second.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to incorporation?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Ms. Drummond.
I'd just like to make sure that everybody who's on the phone has the laid on the table items and any other items that appeared this afternoon while everybody was in transit.
Well, we are trying our best to do that. As far as we know, that they have all been sent, Ms. Drummond.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So seeing no objection, then, we are incorporating into the agenda the addendum and the laid on the table items, and I will go ahead and read them for the record. Adding to 9 Delta on our agenda is 23. This is AM 647. It's a change order number 4 to purchase order number 20101212 with Kronos Incorporated for additional time and attendance software licensure support for the Municipality of Anchorage Information Technology Department, $318,760. Also, a new item for introduction, F9 A0114. This is an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code Section 4.70.030 regarding Municipal Light and Power Commission membership and terms. Public hearing on that will be set for November 22nd. Under new public hearings, there is now an S version or a substitute version of AO106. This is the ordinance amending Municipal Code Chapter 8.35 to prohibit the manufacture, assembly, distribution, marketing, sale, use, or possession of substances containing certain chemical compounds, including those commonly marketed and sold as bath salts, plant food, incense, or dietary supplements, which induce effects similar to certain illegal drugs, and to prohibit the sale or possession of paraphernalia related to the use of these chemical compounds, to provide penalties, also amending Section 14.60.030 to provide for those penalties. And then on the laid on the table item for introduction, F10, is AR 307. This is a resolution appropriating $290,567 of Information Technology Operating Fund 607 fund balance to the Information Technology Operating Fund 607 to be used as a contribution to the Information Technology Capital Improvement Program Fund and the Informational Technology Department for the electronic timekeeping project. This is accompanied by AM 649, and public hearing is set for November 22nd. Just a minute. I'm sorry? Mr. Flynn and Mr. Hall, I was just handed something, which I thought, is this an S version of something that's already there? Do you want this introduced as a separate item?
It should be as a laid on the table item, Madam Chair, and the reason is it's a resolution as opposed to an Assembly Information Memorandum. It will ultimately, I hope, replace item 9 Delta 13.
Okay, why don't, then, let me finish reading the laid on the table, and then you can make a motion to incorporate that as
Sure.
soon as we're done. Thank you. The other item on the laid on the table that has been incorporated is for 11A under old business is AR 295S. This is a substitute version of the 2012 legislative program, which Mr. Flynn already mentioned. All right, those items are incorporated into the agenda. I need a motion for the amended agenda.
You want a motion for the additional incorporation first?
Well, I was going to just get it on front, and then you can make your motion, sir.
Okay.
If we could get the consent
I'll
agenda.
move to complete the incorporation.
Second.
And then also move to get the consent agenda in front of us, sir?
Correct.
Thank you. And there was a second for that from
Second. Mr. Holman.
Mr. Honeman. All right. Now, Mr. Flynn, you wanted to add?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd move to incorporate Assembly Resolution 2011, I believe it'll be -303 in front of you.
303?
And just the title of which is a resolution in Anchorage Municipal Assembly confirming Assembly expectations and approval of a sole source purchase with Coffee Consulting. And the intent here, Madam Chair, is to replace the Assembly Memorandum 634-2011, which is item 9 Delta 13. I'll deal with that when we're pulling items.
I understand. Let me confirm that number with the clerk. Just a moment, please. Are you okay with this being 303? So it's just a new item. 303 is all right? All right. The number is fine. Was there a second to that?
Second.
Mr. Honeman, were you the second?
Yes.
All right. So that item has been added to the agenda, And it will be then Delta,
I had that wrong, Madam Chair. It should be 308. Sorry.
well, just a minute. The 303 was confirmed by the clerk. Hold on. Okay, she made an error. She confirms you are correct. It is 308.
Thank you.
And it will be then Delta 20, is it 23? 24. Delta 24. Is there any objection to incorporating that item into the agenda from anyone?
Madam Chair?
Ms. Drummond?
Other than I can't see what that item is. If there's any way to email it to me, I would really appreciate it. That's AR 3008, I believe, Mr. Flynn's.
All right. Ms. Tucker's assistant is here, and she is emailing it to you. Is that correct, Lisa? All right. You should get it soon, Ms. Drummond.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I'm seeing no objection. Then we are adding that item, Delta 24, to the agenda. All right. The consent agenda is before us. I'll go down and see what people would like to talk about. Should I start with you, Mr. Trainee?
The only item that I want to talk about is on page 3. It's item 9D2. I'm not going to vote on that one for obvious reasons.
All right. We're
No
pulling.
matter what I say, I'll be in trouble.
There you go. All right. All right. We're pulling that one.
I'm not
Mr.
pulling it,
Honeman?
I'm just not voting on it.
I hear you, sir.
However you want to phrase it.
Okay. Go ahead.
For the purpose of discussion, 9 Delta 13 and 24. 9D13 and the late on the table,
Delta
9D24.
13 and the late on the table 24. Hold on a second. I've got to. And 24. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Honeman?
No.
Ms. Drummond, anything you'd like to pull?
Not at this time. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hall?
9D4.
9 Delta 4, sir?
9 Delta 4.
All right. Mr. Starr?
No items.
Mr. Trombley?
9 Delta 21, please.
9 Delta 21. All right. Ms. Johnston, anything you'd like to discuss?
No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for reading 9 Alpha 1
Alpha 1.
and for a brief inquiry, item 9 Delta 23.
Delta 23?
That is correct.
Okay, that was on the addendum.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, got it. Anything else, sir?
Paul got the other one, so thank you.
All right. Mr. Birch?
No items. Thank you.
Administration? Nothing? All right, let me go over them to make sure we've got them all. 9A1, 9 Delta 2, 9 Delta 4, 9 Delta 13, 9 Delta 21, 9 Delta 23, 9 Delta 24. And that accord to what everybody else has got? Very good. All right. Please vote on, I can't start a vote, Madam Clerk. Okay. Please vote on the consent agenda lest the items pulled. How do you vote, Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Thank you. Those items, are you going to show it? Okay, the consent agenda passes 10-0. The first item before us is 9A1. This is AR 297. It's a resolution recognizing and celebrating November 15, 2011 as Anchorage Recycles Day.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any objection to approval? Seeing none, that's approved unanimously. Is there anyone here to accept this resolution? All right.
Come
Very
on
good.
down.
Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing and celebrating November 15, 2011 as Anchorage Recycles Day. Whereas America Recycles Day is a national campaign with the goal of educating and encouraging Americans to recycle and buy recycled products. And whereas the America Recycles Day campaign has grown substantially in participation since its inception, and now in its 15th year encourages recycling activities throughout the U.S. and several territories. And whereas residents in every state of the nation participate in America Recycles Day and pledge to recycle each year, and whereas the municipality of Anchorage has undertaken many positive and successful waste reduction programs that have helped make Anchorage a recycling leader. However, we can further reduce waste and recycle even more. And whereas, by encouraging businesses, municipal agencies, nonprofit organizations, schools, and individuals to celebrate Anchorage Recycles Day 2011, we can further promote recycling as an environmentally efficient and economically smart way of life. And whereas state and local community leaders can help encourage recycling by informing citizens about the importance of buying recycled products, they can also help foster greater awareness of the need to expand collection programs for recyclable goods and materials by promoting the benefits of recycling investments for business. Now, therefore, the Anchorage Municipal Assembly celebrates and recognizes Tuesday, November 15, 2011, as Anchorage Recycles Day, and urge all Anchorage businesses and citizens to participate in Anchorage Recycles Day by supporting continued recycling efforts, and by purchasing recycling content products. Passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 8th day of November, 2011.
Thank you. We have a few extra folks that came down to support recycling today and are happy to see the proclamation, joining Mayor Sullivan for declaring November 15th as Anchorage Recycles Day, and also Governor Parnell as Alaska Recycles Day on the 15th.
Very good.
Thank you
very much. Thank you, everyone, for your work on this. I was remiss. I believe we've appointed some people to boards and commissions. Mr. Mayor, are there folks here in the room that we should recognize?
If they are, they should come up.
If we just appointed you to a board or commission, we'd very much like to meet you. Could you come down and introduce yourself and tell us which board or commission you'll be working on?
Madam Chairperson, Assembly, my name is Bob Churchill. I've been reappointed to the Equal Rights Commission. I've had one appointment. It's been interesting, delightful, and hopefully useful. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Mark Johnston, the Municipal Budget Advisory Commission.
Ah, very good. Important one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine King, the ADA Advisory Commission.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Rob Merchant with Codes and Regulations for Mechanical.
Very good. Thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire Assembly for being willing to step forth and serve like this. We depend on our boards and commissions, and we couldn't really get the city's work done without you, so you are appreciated. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming down so we could meet you. With that, the next item before us is 9 Delta 2. It's an Animal Control Advisory Board appointment of Sandy Trainey.
Move to approve.
Move to leave the room.
Second.
I'm going to ask Mr. Trainey to not vote on this matter, since he is obviously highly interested in this, I'm sure. His wife is the appointee. All right. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection?
Madam Chair?
Ms. Drummond.
I'm not quite sure why Mr. Trainey can't vote on his wife's appointment, because as far as I know, commission appointees earn no money. It has no influence on his family's income, and I believe that he should be allowed to vote on this.
Well, if you recall, Ms. Drummond, when we rewrote the ethics code, we broadened the statement of rationale for non-voting to include appearance of conflict or basically appearance of conflict. And since Mr. Trainee does not want to vote on this, I'm honoring his request, and I think it's appropriate to not allow him to vote. So,
Very well, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. At this point, I'm going to ask again, is there any objection to the appointment of Sandy Trainee? I see and hear no objection. So, Mr. Trainee, come on back, and Mrs. Trainee is appointed by a vote of 9-0. Thank you very much. The next item before us is 9 Delta 4. This is AM 626. It's the Budget Advisory Commission appointment. Mark Johnston and Shirley Nelson.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, I pull these for 2 date changes. They are wrong on this memorandum. The term expires for Mark Johnson on 6/30/2012, and for Shirley M. Nelson would be the same. That date should read 6/30/2012.
Is there a second for that amendment?
Second.
That Mr. Trainee provided the second for that amendment. Is there objection to the amendment? Seeing none, the amendment is incorporated into the main matter. Is there objection to the motion as amended? Hearing and seeing no objection, that matter is approved unanimously 10-0. All right, moving on. The next item before us is the 9 Delta 13.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
You just let me read the title, and then I'll call on you, Ms. Drummond. It's AM 634. It's a sole source purchase of professional services from Coffee Consulting for the Municipality of Anchorage, $60,000. Now, Ms. Drummond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to respectfully request the delay until later in the meeting for consideration of this item until Ms. Gray Jackson has arrived, as she would like to participate in the debate and discussion on this one.
Ms. Drummond, when Ms. Gray Jackson called me about that, she said it would be okay if we calendared it for 6 p.m. Would you?
Okay.
Would that be okay then with you?
That works for me.
All right. I'm going to ask if there's any objection to moving this one down to 6 p.m. All right. Seeing no objection, then we're going to reorder that one and move it on down to 6 p.m. The next one then would be 9 Delta 21. This is AM 642. It's change order number 1 to contract 2011 PUR 133 with Professional Business Services Incorporated to provide temporary employment and payroll services for professional and technical contract personnel for the Municipality of Anchorage, $300,000.
Move to approve. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, Mr. Trombley. It was yours, and you moved it. And
Second.
It looked like Mr. Honeman seconded.
Sure.
Go ahead.
The question I have to the administration on this is that when we have things like SAP and Kronos, usually when we approve the money for that, along with that comes some sort of technical support. And so now we're hiring additional technical support on top of the technical support, which the programs that we are purchasing, or I should say the city's purchasing. And I'm just curious, why it seems a tad bit redundant. Just a little bit of clarification. I'm willing to admit if I'm wrong, but I'd just like some clarification, please.
Through the chair, as you noted, this amendment for professional services is for backfill in some departments. Additionally, the amendment covers positions, for example, in the purchasing department for Mr. Kaltenbach to help us while we were struggling with trying to find resources. So it is not all just associated with SAP and Kronos. However, just to point out, when we did bring to you the SAP project, we brought to you a $13 million project, of which operating costs as well as expense as well as capital were included. So we are capitalizing the labor to support SAP, And then we do need to backfill some of those positions in order to do our day-to-day jobs. And that is what this represents.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right. Any other discussion on this matter? All right. Is there any objection to approval of this matter? Seeing and hearing no objection, then this 9 Delta 21 is approved 10-0. All right. The next item on the agenda then is 9 Delta 23 on the addendum. This is AM 647, change order number 4 to purchase order number 2010-1212 with Kronos Incorporated for additional time and attendance software license support for the Municipality of Anchorage IT Department, $318,760.
Move to accept.
Second.
All right, isn't it, I'm sorry, it's a move to approve, isn't it, sir?
It's a memorandum, isn't it?
Well, we have to approve.
Oh, sorry, yes, we need to approve this one. Sorry, move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not entirely dissimilar from the previous line of questioning. I guess my eyebrows kind of arose when I saw a $318,000 change order to what was originally a $418,000 contract. Maybe a little bit of context would help me out here.
Sure, through the chair. The reason for the increase is primarily due to the schedule delay that we've experienced in implementing Kronos. Now we're faced with the same resources trying to implement two very important projects. So the majority of these dollars here relate to just outsourcing outsourcing labor that we had planned to do internally. We have two projects colliding. We just don't have enough internal staff to address both projects.
Okay. And the staffing will be provided by Kronos?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Honeman.
I guess along the same line of question, Ms. Mahoney, was this kind of a miss, or was it simply because of scheduling conflicts and delays that were unanticipated? Or was it something that we didn't anticipate and just kind of missed it, and now we're becoming aware of it?
The reason for the scheduling delay is because we did not anticipate all the various interpretations throughout the municipality due to the decentralized timekeeping environment of how employees were to be paid. We are correcting years and years and years of problems, and it's just taking longer than we thought.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All right. Is there any objection to approval of this matter? Hearing and seeing no objection, then, this matter is approved unanimously 10-0. All right, we're in a little bit of a conundrum here because the only item left on our consent agenda is another one that's relevant to the one that was postponed
Maybe I can
until
help you out here, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
I'd move to postpone item 9 Delta 24 to 5:59 and 59 seconds.
Very good.
Second.
All right. Is there objection to that? All right. Now, we also have appearance requests, which we cannot hear until 6, which means this body is in for a recess of about 20 minutes because there is no work we can do for a while. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. I'm hoping we can get these next two items done in time to recognize our speakers who were told that they could speak at 6. So let's give it a try. The way the agenda was reordered, we're basically going to deal with Delta 24 first. And if you recall, that is a resolution confirming assembly expectations and approval of a sole source purchase with Coffee Consulting, the laid on the table item. Mr. Flynn?
I'll move to approve.
Discussion? Now, I'm remiss here. I should have checked. Do we have people online? No. We have no one online?
Did I hear something about 10 after? Somebody said something about 16. 4 hours of...
Hello?
Hi, this is Harriet and Elvie.
And this is Jennifer.
Please
All
let
right.
the chair know that I'm here.
Thank you. Before you came on, we had a motion from Mr. Hall for Delta 24, the late on the table item, and that is before us now. So if anybody would like to speak to that, Mr. Hall, I'm going to allow you to go first.
Okay,
If you want to say
Madam
anything.
Chair.
I'll get you in a minute, Ms. Drummond.
No, I'm just telling you that the sound quality has changed significantly since the last call. Something is buzzing seriously on this line.
All right, we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Did you have any comments?
No, ma'am.
I believe that Ms. Drummond and or Ms. Gray Jackson had an amendment they wish to offer, so we'll go ahead and allow them to offer those.
All right. Mr. Honeman, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd actually pull both 13 and this particular. What I wanted to say, reason for pulling it was that the IAM was very scant in details and information. And of course, I read with probably as sincere as the mayor's office is that Mr. Coffey is someone who's dependable and reliable and you can count on him and has the confidence of the mayor, and that's great. But it didn't have a whole lot of detail, so I'm glad to see that the resolution followed, and it has more specifics here with the role that Mr. Coffey playing. And of course, talking to constituents in at least one of the community council, there was concern, of course, on sole source contracting. And with that, I think with these more specific details, I think answers and allays some of the concerns that were raised at my council meetings, for sure.
All right,
So
thank you.
I'm glad that we have the resolution.
Thank you. Ms. Drummond, do you have a comment? Ms. Drummond, are you there? Do we have anybody online? You know, folks, technology, we're trying our best, but they apparently are gone. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead. We have an item before us. We need a vote.
Well, we have 3 people that could vote.
Madam Chair, I'm on the phone.
All right, you a minute ago were not. Now you apparently are back. All right, do you have?
Madam Chair, this is Elvie.
Go ahead, Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we voting on the contract?
9 Delta 24.
Which is the contract that's on the agenda, not the resolution that was laid on the table.
No, it's the late on the table item, which includes the contract.
Well, Madam Chair, the way I see it, number one, Ms. Drummond and I made some amendments that Amanda should have to the resolution. And the resolution is not approving the contract because there's no fund certification. I think what we need to do is approve the contract first the AM, because that's the actual contract approval with the fund certification, and then deal with the resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, at this point, Ms. Gray Jackson, the item before us is 9 Delta 24, the AR. So let's deal with one thing at a time. And do you have any amendment you want to offer on this item?
Madam Chair, the amendment brought forward by Ms. Drummond and I was emailed to Amanda, and she should be passing that out right now.
Well, she has not passed it out. Do you have it?
Yeah.
All right, could you
we
just
can verbally tell you what the amendments are.
please go ahead, do that.
Okay. In the title, we want to delete an approval.
All right, the motion you're making is to delete the words "and approval" in the title.
Right.
And was that seconded by Ms. Drummond?
Second.
All right, that item is before us. Is there a discussion? All right, Mr. Birch, do you want to discuss the amendment?
Yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. Thanks.
All right. Ms. Honeman, you want to discuss the amendment?
I'm just going to assume, but I want to be careful not to. So, Ms. Gray Jackson, Ms. Drummond, removing "and approval," is that the reasoning behind what you said earlier? There's no fund certification on the resolution?
Yes. The AM is the document that we need to approve the contract on, not the resolution, because there's no fund certification. This is not a contract approval resolution.
Okay. Seeing no one in queue, please vote on the amendment. Ms. Gray Jackson, you want to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
No.
All right. That amendment fails 4 to 7. And do you have another amendment, Ms. Gray Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delete lines 23 and 24.
Line 23 on the first page, ma'am?
On the first page, Madam Chair.
So the whereas by approving the contract, the Assembly has determined that Coffee Consulting is uniquely qualified for the task at hand. That's what you want to do?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the same reasoning as stated prior.
All right. And Ms. Drummond, are you also the second for this one?
Yes, ma'am. Seconded.
All right. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Mr. Birch, this is deleting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th whereas.
Again, I would say this is unnecessary. This is a determination, a resolution of the Assembly, and if we are approving this, then it is a determination. So it seems unreasonable to take it out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Please
Madam
vote.
Chair?
Oh, Ms. Gray Jackson, you want to speak again?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To my colleagues, this is a resolution from the Assembly. It is not a contract approval. There is no fund certification on this resolution, so it is inappropriate to approve this resolution with the language as it's written.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Please,
Madam Chair.
Ms. Drummond.
Thank you. I'd also like to make a comment and also to thank Mr. Starr and Mr. Hahnemann for voting with myself and Ms. Gray Jackson to strike and approval. Apparently, only 4 members of the Assembly understand that this resolution is completely inappropriate until after the contract has been voted upon. And I would strongly urge the chair to consider moving this item in the queue to right behind the contract. Let's discuss and debate the contract and then discuss and debate this laid on the table item. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Starr.
I don't think you can do both at the same time. That would have been the ideal, is to have the contract attached to the resolution, because I think the spirit of what we're talking about is that. Speaking solely to this amendment, the spirit of that language does speak to the Assembly affirming or confirming that Coffee Consulting is uniquely qualified for the task at hand. So I won't be supporting deleting that language. I think the technicality, as I see it from the budget and the appropriation fund certification, that seems to be the hang-up for the makers. I don't find that. I don't think we're being disingenuous to the public on what this is about. It's our review. The resolution is well worded, and I won't support taking that wording out.
All right. Seeing no one else in queue, please vote on the amendment, which is the deletion of the 5th whereas. Ms. Johnston, how do you vote?
No.
Ms. Gray Jackson, how do you vote?
No. Yes.
Ms. Drummond, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. That amendment fails 2 to 9. Do you have another amendment, Ms. Gray Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next amendment is, bear with me a moment.
All right.
Okay. On line 23 through 28, that paragraph, on page 2, that paragraph should be amended to read as, I move to amend that paragraph to read as follows. Based on the changes noted above, the administration commits to continue to closely monitor the project and make appropriate personnel changes, and understands that Coffee Consulting will report to both the municipal administration and to the Assembly, period. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So you're basically deleting the last phrase.
The last phrase.
Which reads,
Second.
the Assembly approves the sole search purchase of professional services with Coffee Consulting. You want to delete
the
that.
last phrase and also a couple of words within the document as read.
Okay. All right, that was seconded, and so is before us. Mr. Honeman?
I do see that on line 23, I see where the strike through there seems to make it a little more clear. It almost seems a redundant comment there, a commitment of the administration commits to. So it's possibly that cleans that language up there, makes it more readable. And again, I go back to, I think, the legitimacy of the conversation, that there are no fund sources here, so that this is not necessarily contract. I go back to saying I appreciate the resolution because it actually gives more details of the contract or what the expectation of services by Coffey Consulting would be, but it doesn't have the actual fund certification that the AIM has. And so
Okay.
I'd have to agree with that.
I'm going to, if we don't finish this pretty quickly, I'm going to put it on hold because we're committed to deal with our speakers before 6:30. So, Mr. Flynn, very quickly.
Yeah, just real briefly, Madam Chair. The amendment has a little bit of difficulty with it because it says the administration commits to continue closely monitoring the project. Well, the Assembly can't commit the administration to do something. That's why we put in there the commitment of the administration that they've made to us was the reason that was structured that way. So I understand the sentiment, but I think that's the wrong step.
I disagree with
Case.
Mr. Birch?
I would concur. I think the intent is well represented and crafted in the resolution set forth, and will be a no vote on this amendment.
All right. Seeing no one else in queue, please vote on this amendment, which rewrites the lines 23 through 27 on page 2. And that amendment, Ms. Johnston?
No.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
And that amendment fails 3-9. Ms. Gray Jackson, do you have another amendment?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Drummond, do you have another amendment?
No, thank you.
Ms. Johnston, do you have an amendment?
No, thank you.
All right. Are there any more amendments on this? Please vote on the main matter as amended. Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
No.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
No.
And that passes 9-2. We do have one more item on the consent agenda we need to deal with, but I have to put it on hold until we hear our speakers who will speak before 6:30.
There it is.
So,
Madam Chair, just confirm that matter is 9 Delta 13? Or?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We will deal with that next, but first we have to deal with our appearance requests. So I'm trying to turn papers here very quickly. Mr. Wayne Jackson and Mr. Ian Stephen, come forward, and I see it's Mr. Donnelly instead. Hi. If you
Thank
could
you, Madam
start
Chair.
with your name, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Dave Donnelly, registered lobbyist for the Independent Pilots Association. And this is Mr. Ian Stevens, representative of the Independent Pilots Association.
Good evening, Madam Chair, fellow Assembly. I'd like to give you a quick update on a resolution that was brought before this Assembly in August of last year that mentioned the layoff of 300 of our Anchorage-based pilots. And through that resolution and the mayor's letter and some legislative letters that were written, also including our governor and the 2 senior senators, the layoff was reduced to 109 members of our community. And some exciting news that we'd like to bring forward is that just of this last week, UPS has announced that they're going to be recalling on a 2-month cycle our pilots back to property, and which is great news. So the reason I'm here is to say thank you on a 25-year citizen of Alaska on behalf of me and my union. Thank you very much. You all have letters in front of you. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to bring this forward. We wanted to say thank you, and instead of just coming and asking for help all the time, we wanted to say thank you.
We like good news.
Well, it was a very significant reduction. The original plan was for over 300 of the domiciled pilots here to be laid off, and that was reduced to about 109. So it was a very effective community action, helped mitigate that effect.
We are extremely pleased. Mr. Hodeman, you have a question?
Yes, and thank you for coming down and actually making these report, because it oftentimes goes off to the sunset and never to be heard from again, so I appreciate that. And so you're saying that every 2 months they're going to be recalling the furloughed pilots, the 100?
That's our hope. They've announced 6, which doesn't sound like much, but these are very, I would say, they're high-paying jobs in our community. And just to have 6 of them after being on the street for almost 2 years is significant. The company's committed to, over the next 12 months, every 2 months, reevaluate their staffing needs. But it's a step in the right direction.
Yes,
and it's through no small measure in part to the pressure that was put on by our legislators in this state. So it's nice to see that it works.
Thanks for keeping your dollars here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed. Good
Thank
news.
you.
Thank you very much for sharing it.
Cheers.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Fuller, are you here? Fletcher Fuller? Come forth, sir.
I'm Fletcher Fuller at 337-1149, and I'm here to talk about a litter problem which has existed for a long time, and I have addressed the problem in my limited way of doing it by sending emails to the people who are concerned in other states. I sent to Florida, to the director, and I got an answer back. And I explained that we're looking for answers to litter problems, and I asked them to let me know what Florida has been doing. And they answered, and they said, congratulations on adopting a highway, which I did, and I understand you're searching for information, which I am, and although I cannot give you a direct answer, I can give you directions to get the answer. Check your own Alaska Beautiful Hardware office. They have a lot of resources. So I sat down and I put a list of things to be done, and one of which was to get our own people together. And so I contacted the school board and Carol Como, because that's, to me, is the answer to the future, is to get the elementary children involved and give them the problem and let them come up with some answers, because ultimately we're going to be handing the problem to the children, and they will then be the future. So if we start now with what I call Stewardship 101 training in the schools, and we give the problems to the ones that's like this, when they reach up here, they will have more time and more training to handle the problem. So I'm hoping that's going to come about, and we'll see if we're planting the right seeds. Johnny Appleseed did this. I mean, that's what I want us to see. And I didn't hear back from the people in Ketchikan, and so I assumed they didn't answer calls and didn't answer emails, so I assumed they're either on vacation or something is going on. So I went ahead and took off and started doing it, because I'm not somebody who's going to sit there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you.
We have to somebody got to pick up the reins and start going.
Sir, Mr. Honeman has a question.
Right here, Mr. Fuller.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Honeman wants to ask you a question.
Mr. Fuller, right here. That section of the road that you have adopted, is that Northern Lights between Boniface and Muldoon? Is that section of road?
The piece that I got, I had a lot of discussion about it, but the only piece I could get was between City Diner.
That's right.
And Forest Park.
There's a couple of other gentlemen that are doing the section from Boniface to Muldoon, and I've seen them out a couple times as well.
That was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I wanted to go that direction. And I think with time, we're going to make it.
Good. Well, I will say that I was at the Sears Mall, and my wife had run in the store for a minute to pick up something from one of the stores inside, and there was a young man having a bad day apparently. He spilled a drink or something, and next thing I know, cups are flying out all into the parking lot, and not unnecessarily in the roadway. And then over closer to my house at Totem Theater lot, almost every morning you find just debris laying everywhere. So people aren't paying attention, and I don't know what it's going to take, but I appreciate you bringing awareness to the problem of littering. Thank you.
Well, I found out that the state in Arkansas has a tremendous program, which is a gentle approach to getting a mindset change, and I'm hoping to put that in to Alaska in some way, somehow.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for coming forward. With that,
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
All right, we're going back now to Delta 13. This is AM 634. It's the sole search purchase for professional services from Coffee Consulting for $60,000.
Move to approve.
It was moved by Mr. Hall and seconded by Mr. Birch. Mr. Honeman, you want to speak to it?
Yes, and I originally had pulled this, and again, I go back to my original comment, which was appreciating the resolution that actually spelled out a little more in detail what Mr. Coffey and the Coffey Consulting would be doing for the municipality. And two things that in contacting constituents in my area, and one was they made note that it's approximately $10,000 a month for 6 months, and that if, on a year-round basis, if Mr. Coffey and Coffey Consulting were to finish the entire year, it's $120,000, which ironically I believe is $20,000 more than the municipal lobbyist for the whole year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Okay. So it would basically a little bit more money from that. So the concern was, for that kind of money, what are the specifics? Where's the ingredients as to what's the commitment? So I understand that under the legislative appropriation, there's an attempt to secure another $350 million for the port completion on the north end. Is that also correct in the state legislative request? I believe that's it. So, and I know it's really difficult to put a measurable, and that was the other thing was requested, is how do you define what is successful? So for $60,000, what's the return on the investment? And of course, that's a real tough one to grasp. I know Mr. Coffey, and the only thing that I have been able to say with a straight face is that I know that you're very good at getting money, asking people for money, and so, and I know that you've got tons of experience in this community with a lot of networks. So I too share the confidence that you would be very aggressive in trying to secure money for the port and the project. So I appreciate that. The concerns the community had risen was sole source contract with very little details and nothing to really define measurable as what is success. So and of course if you carry it out a full year, more than double what we're paying for a lobbyist right now.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just to answer part of that concern, I'm not sure that the body is aware, and I apologize for maybe not giving you more information sooner, but as you know, my Intergovernmental Affairs Director 2 years ago, Stacy Schubert, moved on to AHFC, and her replacement, Sarah Gill, resigned in June, and so we have gone a number of months with that position unfilled, and it's not our intent to fill that position. So quite frankly, with the contract, we're actually saving money for the city by having Mr. Coffey do that same work on a contract basis rather than having a full-loaded employee that we previously had in the executive ranks. So we've, I think, accomplished a win-win here with adding Mr. Coffey to the team and doing so at a savings to the city.
Thank you very much. Please vote. Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
No.
Ms. Gray-Jackson?
No.
That item passes 2-9. All right, we're now at 11A on the agenda. This is Resolution 295 adopting the 2012 legislative program, and there is an S version on that. And there is no motion pending. Mr.
Move
Flynn?
to approve.
With the S
Yes
version?
version.
All right, and the second was Mr. Trainee.
And Madam Chair, as you're aware, we have a series, I'm going to treat them as 3 amendments. The first 2 have my name on them, and we'll do the third one as the Parks Foundation slate.
Could you read the ones with your name on it, sir, for the public?
Yep, we'll start with amendment number 1, which would add to page number 10 under Parks and Recreation a Mountain View Recreation Center HVAC upgrade for $175,000. These funds will be used to replace 8 functioning but tired rooftop units, thereby improving system performance and efficiency. And again, this is just a request for legislative consideration.
Do you want to do them both at once, sir?
We'll do them one at a time. It's fine.
All right, well, at this point, I don't...
Second.
All right, thank you. Ms. Drummond, that was you, wasn't it?
Ms. Johnston.
Oh, Ms. Johnston seconded it.
Well,
Okay.
like to me.
Is there discussion? Is there objection from anyone? Seeing no objection and hearing no objection, that amendment is incorporated, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And amendment number 2, I guess I was going to call it the Kemp Amendment, but seeing Mr. McGrath in the audience, maybe I'll call it the McGrath Amendment. This is the Fairview Sidewalk Snow Disposal Pilot Project, the amount of $50,000. These funds will be used to install below-grade snow melt cistern accessible via a sidewalk level hatch adjacent to the Fairview Recreation Center. A heating element within would allow sidewalk snow to be plowed into the cistern and thereby melting into the water table. Similar systems are used in other subarctic environments. This also serves as a test to determine its viability here in Anchorage.
Second.
That was Ms. Johnston seconding Mr. Flynn's amendment. Is there discussion on that amendment? Is there any? Mr. Starr, go ahead.
Patrick, I'm all for it to a degree, but this one's a little bit far-reaching for me to pass the blush test. Do they use these somewhere else that you can?
They do. In fact, specifically, they use them in Hokkaido, Japan, and I believe in a couple of our sister countries in Scandinavia.
We have NEPDES in front of us, and we have stormwater runoff legislation, and we have a whole host of regulatory environment issues that just don't speak to opening up a hole and pouring hot water down it. I mean, I'm challenged by that.
We actually have one of these in Anchorage right now in a subdivision.
In South Anchorage.
In South Anchorage. Thank you, Ms. Johnston.
We have a hole in the ground, we pour snow into it, and it goes away?
Technically, it's a 40-foot connex with an open roof, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it's using our lobby time appropriately to explain to somebody what we would want. So give it a try.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Just a moment. Mr. Honeman's next, then I'll come to you.
Thank you.
And I believe I talked either last meeting or the meeting before, even in the open forum of the body, is there was a large project being tested over at the Fred Meyer on Muldoon, and I had asked if the municipality was involved in that testing. I'm not sure that they were, but it was a very large project being tested there, and that's I think it's a good use of our, if we can get the appropriations and get this tested to see if it works. I'm supporting it.
Ms. Drummond?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure where these floor amendments were. I just found them. Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Is there any objection to this amendment? Hearing and seeing no objection, this amendment is incorporated into the document. Mr. Flynn, do you have anything else?
Last one, Madam Chair. This is the one you received as you walked in this evening. It's in the form of a memorandum from the mayor, and it is 6 projects recommended by the Anchorage Parks Foundation. I'll briefly read through them. One is Mulcahy Rinks reconstruction at Chester Creek Complex. That's $250,000. Downtown streetscapes for $310,000. Campbell Park playground equipment for $200,000. Fairbanks Park Tot Lot playground equipment for $50,000. Fairview Lions Park for $200,000, and the Campbell Creek Estuary Trailhead for $200,000.
And just to clarify, the mayor informed us, for those of you on the phone, that these are a request from the foundation, the Park Foundation, and basically we'll go through them.
Yes, correct.
All right. And the second, Mr. Trainey, were you the second on that? All right. Just confirming for our clerk. Is there any objection to these incorporating these amendments? Hearing and seeing no objection, those amendments are also incorporated into the document. Are there any further amendments? All right. We have the main document, the S version, as amended before us. Is there any discussion?
Real briefly.
Mr. Flynn.
Real briefly, Madam Chair. I want to thank my colleagues in the administration for all their work on this. These are always kind of a moving target as we put them together, and we try to be careful about not being too prescriptive in what we're asking for, thereby trying to substitute our judgment for those of our legislative delegation. But there's a lot here. Obviously, we don't expect to get all of it, but we hope that it will be a useful tool for our legislators in Juneau as they contemplate how to expend our capital dollars for our community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you to the Legislative Committee. All right.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Trainey's next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank the body and the mayor for postponing this for a couple of weeks. Because remember when this was brought to us first, we made some significant changes. And it's nice to see Waldron Lake back on here. Last year, we got that through the House and the Senate, only to be defeated by the governor. So hopefully he will not do it this time when it passes both the House and the Senate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
I'll get to you in just a second, Ms. Gray Jackson. Mr. Honeman's first. Go
Yes,
ahead.
and Madam Chair, thank you. And I guess I would echo the same, in that it's nice to be able to address this in a reasonably decent pace. We were hitting with a budget, and then we get legislative program that we were trying to get passed through in a rather quick speed without being able to take a look. I'd really rather have had a little more time to work and consult with the community councils in our district. You know that they're off during the summers, most of them, and so it's really difficult. We literally, in my opinion, we should be looking at this somewhere in September, October as discussion, much along the line of the budget, and then being able to come back by now. So hopefully next year we'll be able to change this around a little bit.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank the administration for their willingness to add back the $4 million for the Waldron Lake purchase. I'm really pleased, and Mr. Trainey and my constituents are very happy, and hopefully it'll happen during the next legislative session and also won't be vetoed by the governor. I'm hopeful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Thank the body for good, thoughtful amendments, and also for hopefully taking action tonight. As I think was mentioned earlier, we do meet with the Anchorage Legislative Caucus on November 18th, which will be prior to our next meeting, so it's important to have this draft available for them in mostly final form. You never know if there might be some minor things that come up, but the other thing is, to Mr. Honeman, the community councils are hugely involved with this. They submit their list to us in February, and then in the spring we actually go out and visit the sites of any project that they're proposing, and then we help prioritize based on the condition of the projects that they submit to us. So they're deeply involved in this process, and we value that input, and that's really the basis of an awful lot of this legislative package. So with that, I appreciate the body's approval.
All right.
And
last comment, Mr. Honeman?
Just a real quick response, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the conversation and context. Is recognizing, of course, what we talk about in the spring necessarily doesn't come out. The sausage is made at the end, and that's the difficulty, is trying to reconcile to make sure that all the priorities are listened to and, of course, in accordance placed in the budget and the CIP list. Thank you.
Seeing no one else in queue, please vote on the amended legislative program. Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
That is approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, the next item before us is AR 285. This is, I'm sorry? I'm sorry. Do you want to revote? All right, I have to claim I have no control over the voting screen. I truly do. When I see it says complete, I say go, and it said complete. All right. Once again, the chair cannot control the vote. Thank you. All right. We are now at 11B, which is AR 285. This is approving alcohol beverage conditional use to allow catered events by
Waive
various
reading.
licensees at the Denina Convention Center. And this motion, at Mr. Trainey's request, was continued. There is a motion to approve on the floor already, Mr. Trainey. Do you want to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Don't mind. Just that I appreciate waiting 2 weeks. I found the answer to my question out. Thank you to our attorney for pointing out it was a piece of legislation I had passed in 2006 and took care of it. So it's not a problem.
Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Please vote. Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
And that is approved unanimously. All right, moving now to new public hearings.
Madam Chair, may I?
Madam Chair, can we consolidate?
I was actually hoping for a motion like that. Could we have it more specific, though, please?
Madam
which
Chair,
item?
I'd move to combine the public hearing on items 14A through 14G.
Second.
That was moved by Mr. Flynn, seconded by Mr. Trainey. If you want to speak to us about any of the budget items, including the utility budget, the fiscal plan, the capital plan of the city, now's the time to come before us and talk about it. Mr. Starr, you want to say something before the public hearing starts?
Yeah, just to clarify that statement that you made, this is the second of 3 public
Pardon?
hearings scheduled, and the chair's ruling is typically if you've discussed the issues once, you're prohibited from doing that again. However, I just would like latitude, as we would like people to come back and talk to us about amendments that may present themselves. But by all means, this is why we're here. Thank you.
And actually, my belief is that, and this followed when I was on the school district side too, that the budget hearings were sort of an anomaly from that can't testify twice deal, because it does continually change, and we'll be more than happy to hear you if you'd like to come speak. Thank you. Anybody want to speak to us on any of the budget matters? So please come down and identify yourself for the record. Hold on a second. The clerk has reminded me. Is there any objection to combining the public hearings? Hearing, seeing none, we are continuing on the course then of combining them. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the Assembly, my name is Tim Potter for the record, and I wanted to make just a simple request tonight concerning the operating budget for 2012 and then consideration of years ahead of us. The success of planning and forecasting and picking up trends that are occurring within the community and making good decisions is really based upon the data that you have and the analysis of that data that you've collected that occurs. And you need to make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis so you can pick up the trends and know where you're actually going. Flying a plane without an altimeter is a little bit difficult sometimes. And this is an analogy that you need to have the data ongoing. The municipality used to have a staff demographer, and that has not been the case for quite some time. That demographer analyzed all the data, incoming decennial census data, and then annually a lot of data throughout the system that was available through the state, the federal government, local building permits, all kinds of things. I gave the chair a couple of examples of 2000 reports that were previously done so that you had some ideas, you could pass that around to see the type of usable data and analysis that did occur on just a small basis of what was done in 2000. On the heels of the decennial census in 2010, there's a lot of data available, and it's really good data. And it's my recommendation that the Assembly look at budgeting $50,000 for a contract demographic study analysis and report to be performed based on the 2010-2011 available data. That establishes a wonderful baseline that can then be followed up on an annual basis until the next decennial. So my request is that you budget $50,000 for this initial 2012 budget. and then thereafter $25,000 to $30,000 a year until the next census is done, whereas that's a larger study and should be again at the $50,000 range. Again, this would be a contract, so there wouldn't be added staff to the city from an operating standpoint, and it would be my suggestion that you look to AEDC to partner in this annual study so that there will be a sharing of costs, because likewise, this data is very important to entities that are coming here to look and consider locating their business here, moving here, and that. So we get a dual benefit. We know what we're doing, plus it's a sales brochure, basically, and gives us the high points and the low points that we need to sell or work on in order to go into the future. So with that, that's my request.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, Mr. Trombley.
This report that was done in 2000, we've seen the development and, to Cutna Commons in East Anchorage, and we've seen Target come in South Anchorage. Would you say that those are results of reports like this?
A lot of the entities that come up, since I work with a lot of the retail and commercial entities that are locating in the city, they do an awful lot of their own analysis, but they're always asking for this type of data, and they have indicated to me the shortfall that does exist within our community for that data.
So do you have any examples of where someone, a company, a business, whatever, said, I looked at this and that was a good indication that I should build here, that this was a part of their decision-making process?
I'd have to consider thinking going back 10 or 11 years what that was, but they routinely come, and most of the major national tenants have their own groups that do and collect the data based on what the cities have available and from the state and federal government. They use this to augment, and while they may not make 100% of the decision based on what the city has available, it makes it easier for the city to promote itself and for their real estate committees and development committees to go ahead and positive vote and make the decision to come here.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
If I could actually chime in just real quickly, I was on the committee that did the long-range transportation plan last time, and this data was useful for us at that time because Anchorage 2020 didn't forecast the growth in northeast Anchorage, the Muldoon area that actually developed. And the more accurate census data you have, the more accurate your planning can be. That's all. That was my...
It's really important to note that the 2020 plan that we talk about so much, which is now almost 10 years old, the demographic data that was used for that was actually from 96, 97. So our comprehensive plan is really based on work that's very, very old. I think the most recent work that was done on a very limited basis was 2006, and that again was done by a contract employee.
Mr. Honeman?
Mr. Potter, thanks for the information, and I have seen this in the past, and you're right, I hadn't noticed that we didn't have it. What are there? Do you know of any folks that are in town that? The only folks I can think of that might have the capability right now is like ICER, but are there others in town, or do you know we have to recruit someone to be able to?
Sure, there are private contractors, whether they're with a firm or individually. Sue Feisen, who is the previous municipal demographer that used to prepare these studies and has done some under contract, is available and does private consulting. Northern Economics, there's a variety of companies that do it, the McDowell Group.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thanks.
There appear to be no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Catherine Hicks, and the last assembly meeting, I was concerned about the $385K that was appropriated for the Heritage Land Bank to balance the capital fund. And it was explained that this was for environmental cleanup of the Reeve Boulevard project, and that the money would be reclaimed by the party responsible for the contamination. But right now the municipality is paying it. I want to make sure this is followed up on and our money is returned. It's my understanding that the soil was moved from one municipality location to another. Why was contaminated soil moved to another location that the municipality was going to develop? I have a hard time understanding why we pay to move soil, then pay to move it again. I think somebody should be held responsible for this. I was also unable to attend the school or to protest the school district budget. I'm very disappointed that even though enrollment is down, scores are disappointing and not getting much better, we still shove more money at an obvious problem that money won't solve. We need accountability. I do hope that our next superintendent will be less of a union shill and more of a school choice advocate, dropping tenure and promoting school choice. We have many good teachers, but they are limited in their efforts by a failed system. I realize that you in the Assembly are not in control of this, but you can turn the spigot off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Shane Durand. I represent a company called Central Recycling Services here in Anchorage. I'd like to briefly speak to the solid waste services budget. Our company was formed in 2009. We employ about 20 people. In Anchorage, we have a 7-acre facility that recycles construction and demolition debris. We collect material from all over the state, Pebble Partnership, BP, ConocoPhillips. We collect materials from them, recycle them, process them. In the course of our business, we deal with a lot of the different construction companies that come to town. We collect their materials, process them, try to divert as much from the landfill as possible. We run about a 75% diversion rate, manufacture products that are sold into town. One of the common things we hear from contractors coming to town is how low the tip fee is at the landfill. Compared to a lot of other places where they work and dispose of waste, the tip fee here is very cheap. Granted, I'm in a for-profit business. Seeing the tip fees increase helps waste diversion. You could lengthen the life of your landfill by raising your fees there and getting more material diverted from the landfill. I've heard conversations, well, there's no alternative. There's no other place to take the waste. Well, I want to make everyone aware there is a facility and operation that is capable of doing that. I would encourage anybody that wants to come down, see the facility, go for a tour. I could talk about it in more detail later, but there are other opportunities. I'd also like everyone to consider the $3 surcharge, recycling surcharge. I've heard rumors that, I know it's going to sunset, but there's rumors that that could be eliminated. But we were awarded a couple of the grants for tire recycling and glass recycling. And, we see our operation going forward, collecting more of that stuff from the public and increasing recycling. So I believe that surcharge is a necessary requirement in our in the public here to increase recycling and waste diversion. So.
Mr. Honeman has a question.
And I do too.
And I appreciate you coming and talking about your company. I've actually long been envisioning some sort of a recycling program for statewide, and it sounds like you guys are on the road with that. And I hear you say glass? You're taking on glass recycling as well?
Yes, we've cleaned up all the glass and the mess that was out at Point Warrenzoff. We've cleaned that up, brought it to our facility, and we've begun crushing glass, and we're running some different tests. And we're hoping by springtime to be able to have some sort of a public glass collection service.
That's awesome.
And we have some products that, recycled glass products to be selling into the market here.
How about grass clippings?
We're pretty well staying away from any of the organic type stuff at this point. It's all inert.
Okay, and so I would love to take you up on your offer to tour your facility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Ms. Johnston.
Yes, you said that you've received some grants from the $3 tipping fee.
Mm-hmm.
How many years have you received grants, and did you receive one this year?
Those two grants, we were just recently awarded those this year. That was for the RFP that went out in January, the municipal grants for, there was I'm trying to remember now, you had a development grant and a capital grant.
Ms. Johnston?
And that was from Solid Waste Services recycling fee?
Yes.
Okay, and you have no outstanding grants waiting for approval at this point?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And could you tell me the amounts of those grants?
There were two were $75,000, one was $15,000, and one was $20,000. There were two development grants and two capital grants. There was a capital grant and a development grant for each of the glass and the tire processing.
Thank you.
Mr. Honeman again?
Just wanted to clarify one thing. You said you're in support of a higher tipping fee and to continue the $3 surcharge for recycling.
Correct.
And that you believe that that would help defer some materials to your facility and prevent fillage of the landfill overfilling.
Yeah, that would increase waste diversion in town, and I'm surprised that the landfill can run at the current fee that they have compared to all the other facilities I've toured and been to. We have an extremely cheap tip fee here.
Thank you.
I have two questions. Did you say that you have cleaned up the Point Warrensoff site?
Yes, we worked with the Heritage Land Bank, and we had removed the prior glass crushing facility that was there, and we've removed all the previous glass that had been dumped out there.
It's completely clean now?
Our portion of it, the glass portion, not all the other wood debris and organic waste, just the glass and the glass crusher.
Okay, there was also construction debris there.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Just the glass. Okay.
Just the glass.
Second question, where are you located?
We're down off of 2400 Railroad Avenue, which is down by Post Road by Ship Creek. It was the former Standard Metals. It was a Superfund site that's been delisted, and we have a long-term lease with the railroad.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to talk to us?
Good evening. Billy Ray Powers, P-O-W-E-R-S. People ask me why I come down to these meetings. You know, I say, Billy, nobody's listening to you anyway. You know, the assembly's already going to make their own mind up. You know, and I go, well, that may be the case. But I do believe that one man can make a difference, even if it's a small difference. Look at Ernie Hall, what he did for Ferrandi. I mean, that was really a nice piece of work. And, you know, one guy was pretty much instrumental. You know, the government we have here right now, the taxes were tied to the evaluation of properties that grew double digits in value for 20 years, based on a bubble, based on lending practices that were not only immoral, but I think illegal. This government is still spending that kind of money that was based on taxes on the value of properties in a bubble. Now, the previous administration was abusive the way they spent money. Dan Sullivan has made some huge strides, but our taxes are still going up. I mean, we've not seen a decrease. We haven't even seen a hold the line. We have to find some efficiencies here. We're spending $19,000 per student. If you figure those numbers in 12 years, we've spent nearly $250,000 per child. And 1/3 of those kids will not graduate because they can't pass an 8th grade test. The woman that spoke here earlier said, we got to, you know, turn the spigot off, man. We got to have something different. That is not working. I don't know what the answers are. I believe that possibly the union in control, there's absolutely no competition. If I had for my 7 children $250,000 apiece, I could have them graduated out of college in 12 years. But instead, I drive them across town to better schools, and I do it year in and year out because my neighborhood school is not getting it done. And 2/3 of every tax dollar I pay goes to that. There's a lot of other places that we can trim, man, that we can make a better government for our people. I know I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is intimidating. Hi, my name is Jamie Patterson Sims, Mr. Mayor. I would like to speak on the library funding. I teach at UAA. I was also a former Bush Pud out in Bethel, Alaska. And I do not own a TV. We gave it away in 1994. So the library is a very important thing in our family. Library funding has been slashed from the 1985 level of $8.3 million, not adjusted for inflation, which served 80,005 library card holders. The funding for the library in 2012 is only $7.7 million to serve 184,105 card holders. This is more than double the card holders for less money than the 1985 budget. In these economic times, more people are using the library system, so more services are needed, not less. I want to draw your attention in contrast to Lexington, Kentucky, which is ranked number 63 in population in the United States, and Anchorage is ranked number 64. We were within 1 percentage point of their population. Their budget is only $271 million to run their city. But yet their library system will receive $13.2 million this year in fiscal 2012. We are better than Lexington, Kentucky. I have made this place my home since April Fool's Day of 1995, when I bought a one-way ticket on Mark Air to come up here for 3 months. Our community serves a strong and vibrant, informed populace, and the library helps keeps this going. In closing, I would like to see an increase in library funding. How about to the 1985 level of 26 years ago? We could even adjust that for inflation. So anyway, thanks a lot for listening, and that's it.
I want to thank you for the email you sent too, and you have beautiful children, by the way. Anyone else?
Good evening. If I'm correct, I talked to you last meeting, and I wanted to address you again. Is that all right?
That's okay. You just start with your name again, though, please.
Good evening, Assembly. My name is Leon Chapman. I'm an operator for Parks and Recreation. I'm here to talk about the Parks and Recreation budget. I'm here to say, promote rather than demote. Would you rather save $177,523 or $174,668? To do this, you would have to promote 2 caretaker 1s to caretaker 2 positions. Eliminate 3 caretaker 1 positions by promoting those 2 caretaker 1s and not filling 1 position that is now vacant. No one loses a job. No one is demoted needlessly. With this concept, every time a permanent caretaker 1 leaves or moves up, you eliminate the position, which could eventually save the city a total of $591,744, approximately. This keeps pace with the other section, which I call the greenhouse, where all the permanent positions, 1 working foreman, and the rest are gardener 2s. I want to save the operator's position for 2 reasons. I'm currently an operator. When I leave, someone else can move up in that same position. Contrary to what this administration believes, permanent operators are needed. More than one is needed to cover the entire city. I hope the concept I have presented shows how we can save money for the city and help promote rather than demote employees in our department. I would like to thank the Assembly members who have responded to meet with Local 71 representatives at the request of regarding this issue. Hopefully some more members will make time to do so they could hear the other side of the story. Thank you, Mr. Paul Holman, Ms. LVJ Gregson, Ms. Debbie Osander, Mr. Patrick Flynn, Ms. Harriet Drummond. Thank you.
Just a minute. Mr. Trombley has a question for you.
I'm just wondering if I can get the adjustment that you made to actually save more money. I was wondering if I could I get that in writing?
Sure.
I'm just wondering if I can have that, if that's all right.
Well, if you can understand my chicken scratch, I'll give you what I have here. But
sure. I could try it. If anything,
okay.
I just come ask you a question. That's all, Madam Chair. I just want to see.
Would you like it right now?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else like to come forward?
Good evening, members of the Assembly, Mr. Mayor. I've been following the operating budget in Anchorage for many, many years.
And Mr. Graff, I hate to...
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
My name's Tom McGrath.
There you go.
Sorry. After the last mayor, this mayor is actually, I think, acting fairly responsibly. I think a lot more could be cut out of the budget, but he's doing a pretty good job. It's everything else where I kind of have problems, like the guy that was talking about the garbage. Solid Waste Services operates the same way they've been operating for many, many years. At my house, I don't produce garbage, but I have to pay them every month because you have an ordinance that says I do. I either compost it or I recycle it. You know, you don't really need to put money, or you don't really need to put garbage into the dump, but that's our system. Also, we have a 6-year fiscal plan. In 1983, when I first went to the Spenard Community Council, we talked about Spenard in Minnesota. Terrible intersection, a D intersection. Costs the community billions of dollars over a 50-year period. And looking at the latest long-range transportation plan, we're going to fix it in 20 years maybe. So it's just push more, push harder, but putting projects out 25 years from now that we need today in Anchorage is just ridiculous. We have $60 billion in the bank in Alaska. $60 billion. And for the one of a couple $2 billion out of that, we're costing our citizens huge amounts of time and energy. You know, when people go south and north through Minnesota and Spenard every day, they're spending an extra 20 minutes. And that happens all over Anchorage. The same way as people fight with solid waste services because of antiquated systems. We don't have a composting facility for green grass in Anchorage. You know, I have one for all mine, and other people do, but to put green grass in the landfill, I mean, so we're solving the day-to-day problems. We're getting through it, but we're not looking at 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We're not even looking at 3 years, I don't think, very well. So it's kind of, you know, where I'm at. You know, none of us have enough time from day to day, but your decisions waste our time from day to day and on into the future. And in looking at the transportation plan, you know, we're looking at 2035, and we're not going to solve a lot of the problems here in Anchorage until then. We're not even going to think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Phil Isley, last name spelled I-S-L-E-Y, and I've come to talk about the operating budget, although haven't had a lot of time to look at it. Looking over it, and I see almost $14 million for community service, and I've been going to a lot of meetings at community councils and stuff, and I look at some of the ways that the community's planning things, and I think that we could probably really cut that community development probably almost in half, and I'd probably feel better. You have Title 21 that you've been fighting with for years and years, and sometimes I lay awake at night and I wonder why you guys feel that you should have more say on my property than what I do. That you feel, gee, my house should look like this. Maybe I don't like that. Don't I get an opinion on it? And then I look at the road developments that we have, and I go to these transportation meetings, and the other night I was at the one down at Wheeler Junior High, and the associates that were there to sell us the project outnumbered the people that were there to complain about it. And everybody that showed up from the general public generally came to complain about it. Other day I was driving down one of the roads, and the snow was fresh, and the guy ahead of me was all the way in the right lane, and the other guy was all the way to the left, and I was kind of in the middle, and I was trying to figure out, now, is this 2 lanes now, or is it 1 lane with a turn lane? And is one of those guys in front of me going to hit one of the medians and turn sideways? Because once the snow comes, all those pretty lanes that you've got drawn out, nobody can see them and they become dangerous. But it doesn't seem to matter. Sometimes when I drive down in Anchorage and I see all the medians and I'm trying to make a left turn and I have to keep going and keep going and keep going, and then I turn onto a street and I hit a speed bump, but everybody else come up and they've stopped and started and stopped and started to get over the speed bumps. There are some of them that have 3 speed bumps in a block. And I wonder if this is where global warming started. The planning that we put in, we spend an awful lot of time at it. And getting back to Woodler there, every time they ask a question, the guy said, well, we have to put it in the process. And after reviewing this for the last 3 or 4 years, I figured out what the process is. They decide what they want to do, and then they hold meetings till all the opposition gives up, and then they do what they want. And it's not necessarily to our benefit. Why take a road that has potholes in it and fix it and then put speed bumps in it? And since you condensed all this, 3 minutes is probably not near enough to cover, but I think you could probably reduce Parks and Rec a little bit. Your equal rights area is redundant with the states. Your health and human services, that's great and it's generous, but if I can't afford to go out and buy health insurance, it kind of hurts that you're taking money out of my property taxes to give it to other people.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm enjoying this, but the time's up.
Okay. Parting shot. I'd just like you to remember that it's our money that you're so generous with.
Good point. Mr. Honeman has a question.
Mr. Isley? Sure. We have, I believe, one more public hearing?
We do.
If you can collect other thoughts for like the future next public hearing, you might be able to finish out more what your line of thinking on.
I'll give that a shot.
Appreciate the effort.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody want to come forward, talk to us about budgets? No? All right. Hearing and seeing no one else, this closes the second public hearing on the combined budget documents. With that, we are down to 14H. This is AO 110. It's an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code Title 8 to treat assault convictions under municipal code as prior convictions under state law. Anybody like to talk to us about this matter, please come forward. Anybody interested in talking about this matter? Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Trainee.
Just want to thank Dennis for bringing this to our attention. The problem was a ruling of a state judge that doesn't take into account prior municipal convictions, so we need to bring our law into conformance with the state.
Mr.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mr. Honeman?
I pretty much wanted to echo the same. Thank you. Urge support.
Please vote. Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn? All right, why don't we go ahead and close it without him then? And that passes 10-0.
Play with.
All right, the next item before us is 14I. This is AL 106. It's an ordinance amending Municipal Code Chapter 8.35 to prohibit manufacture, assembly, distribution, marketing, sale, use, possession of substances containing chemical compounds, including those commonly marketed and sold as bath salts, plant food, incense, or
Wait,
dietary
reading.
supplements.
And the S version.
And
Chair.
the S version. So if you'd like to talk about the bath salts ordinance, please come forward. Anyone? Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'm going to ask if you mean the S version.
The S version, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And that was acceptable to the second? Who was?
Yes.
Did you get who the second was?
Ernie.
All right, Mr. Hall. Mr. Trainee.
Just, Madam Chair, we had a good work session Friday on this item, and I think it spoke for itself there at the work session. We need to pass this now. It takes effect 30 days after we pass it, and I anticipate the state, when they meet again in January, will introduce, I think Kevin Meyer, Senator, is going to bring the state version forward on this.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Honeman.
I don't know which jurisdiction, but about a year ago this time, we were dealing with Spice K2, and just recently, 2 teens were diagnosed as having heart attacks after ingesting K2 using that illegal synthetically made product, and this is, if not as dangerous, even more so. So I'd urge approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Starr.
I urge approval as well, and I also request, Mr. Mayor, would it be possible for you to generate sort of a regional understanding from your office, take some leadership for our others? We had an incident where we were meeting with the Mat-Su Borough, and the mayor of Wasilla was there, and some borough, and I think they're not very adept at understanding this trend, and it's not good to have one jurisdiction outlawed and another one to not address it. So just really appreciate the friendly comment that you could send to those guys to study up and urge approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. We'll do that. And of course, as you know, the state is considering a similar ordinance under the auspices of Senator Meyer.
Mr. Trainee.
I'm sorry. I just had a little information. Municipal Attorney Wheeler just mentioned that we have indeed informed Mat-Su. I think Mayor DeVillibus mentioned that if we're making it illegal, they probably make it there. So
that was his comment, Mr. Mayor.
And I do. It was sort of a flippant comment, and I took it offensively. Quite honestly, I didn't like that. Quite honestly, that's our children. Oftentimes he's talking about and people on our roads, and so all things said. That was why that spurred me on. So local leadership on the topic from you would be helpful. Thank you.
All right. Now there's several people in queue. Mr. Trainee again.
Madam Chair, just the administration, this takes effect 30 days after we pass it. If you would send a epistle out to the smoke shops, the tobacco shops, whoever's selling this stuff, and tell them, get it off the shelves because we will prosecute for selling it 30 days from now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Madam Chair, to respond to that, Mr. Wheeler, I think, has a proposal, if the body would consider, we may be able to speed up that 30 days.
Mr. Wheeler?
Then bring it to us, Mr. Wheeler.
Madam Chair, Assembly members, if it would be all right with the Assembly, I would propose making it effective immediately so we can get out there right away. The 30 days is designed to allow us to get the citations into shape, where is it, in the code books and so forth. But if we
Madam Chair, I make that motion.
Second, Madam Chair.
I need it to be more specific than that. Mr. Wheeler, give us a line, would you?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Page 7, line 25. Amend that line so it says, this ordinance shall be effective immediately upon passage and approval.
And was that acceptable?
I make that motion.
And the second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Is there any objection to that amendment? Hearing and seeing none, that amendment is incorporated into the document. Mr. Wheeler, did you have anything else?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Mr. Trainee again? Last time?
Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Honeman again, last time?
I just wanted to, I said this earlier, I now found it's in Texas. It's the 3 16-year-olds with heart attacks as a result of KT.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
And that passes unanimously, the S version as amended. Thank you. The next item before us is 14J, AO107. This is an ordinance to clarify designation of the Anchorage Police Department as the exclusive enforcement authority for parking restrictions created under the Residential Parking Zone Program in Chapter 9.65 with no delegation to the Anchorage Community Development Authority. Anybody like to speak to us on this matter, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, the public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Flynn. Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm sure you all read the company memorandum, so there's not much to explain other than when we delegated enforcement to ACDA in the downtown area, we found a couple of inconsistencies, and this tries to clean it up. That's all.
Mr. Starr.
Mr. Flynn, now that we're doing this to ADC, or the Parking Authority, if you ACDA, I'm worried that we didn't address the snow clearing violations adequately. Have you had a chance to take a look at we restricted what they could write tickets for, and so are we covered there, do you think? Because it seems to be problematic for that.
I'm going to defer this to Mr. Onstadt, who is from ACDA in charge of the parking division. He can probably answer more effectively than I can, if you don't mind, Rick.
And I can put a question to it specifically, when you get called by our city crews, that's going to go to the police first. Do they dispatch back to you on that, or are we on top of it from the snow clearing angle?
Rick Onstadt, Parking Director, Easy Park, Madam Chair. The answer, Mr. Starr, is yes. The regulatory signs posted now forbid on-street parking October through April from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So if snow removal crews encounter cars, their first contact is to police dispatch, and they attempt to get the car moved as expediently as possible. We don't have enforcement officers out there working shift now between 2 and 6 a.m., but as we get deeper into the winter, if we need to put somebody on snow nights, we're in position to do that.
What's the recourse for property owners that are dumping snow into the street or filling up parking spots, perhaps with snow, so that people can't park in them? I've seen some of that occurring as well.
I think that the most effective thing that I've seen happen to address that quickly is for the property owners to get on the MOA website, and there's a user form for the street maintenance department where they can report those types of things, and the street maintenance department has been really quick at coming over and removing the snow.
So from a clarifying aspect, the empowering ordinance that we did some time back is still adequate in terms of what you're seeing?
Yes, sir. I believe that's the case.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Rick.
Seeing no one else in queue, please vote. Ms. Johnston? Are you there?
Hello? Say again.
We're asking for a vote on this at this time. This is 14J. Ms. Johnston, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Honeman? Where have you? Oh. Mr. Honeman, do you want to vote on this matter?
Yes.
Was that, you want to vote yes, or you?
Yes.
That's a vote yes. Thank you. All right. Then it is a unanimous on that one. Thank you very much. Next item before us is 14K. This is AO108. It's an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code Section 12.15.015 to replace mandatory, it's basically mandatory annual tax exempt certification for nonprofit organizations. If you'd like to speak to us on this matter, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one. Are you wanting to testify? No? No. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Did you get who the second was? Ms. Drummond, were you the second?
I was.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Gray Jackson, do you want to speak to it?
Briefly, thank you, Madam Chair. In 2008, when I brought forward an ordinance to make changes to Title 12, basically to make all the filing deadlines the same and to require nonprofit certification for property tax exemption on an annual basis, it was a really great idea, except when it was put into effect, it really didn't work. A lot of nonprofits have volunteers, and a lot of them missed the filing deadline because they just weren't set up to be notified in a way that would really be helpful to them of this requirement every year. So this ordinance is being brought forward to change that annual requirement to make it only necessary if there are issues or if pre-certification is necessary or if there are changes in the nonprofit organization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Starr?
I'd like to move an amendment, and that's been laid in front of us. And for those on the phone, it's basically on line 26 of the second page. Line 26 on the second page would read the new section number 3. This subsection, in parentheses, section D, shall not apply to hospitals.
Second.
You want to speak to that, Mr.?
I do, and I think Ms. Gray Jackson's on task with what's required of the nonprofits and those that, reaching out to the city for tax-exempt status. However, my challenge is with the Providence campus in particular with that, and then any other hospitals that may start to come under wraps. I think that's a little bit more complicated, and I would rather they be proactive with their report consistently filed on the deadlines that's in place now with the March timeframe, and then have those reports processed. So it'll be a limited number of users affected by this change. I think the spirit of what Ms. Gray Jackson's doing remains intact, but continues to have folks like Providence and some of the other entities put their report in front of the assessor for review and approval. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
I'll just get to you in a minute, Ms. Gray Jackson. Mr. Flynn on the amendment?
I'll ask my question after Ms. Gray Jackson, if that's okay.
All right. Ms. Gray Jackson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to agree with Mr. Starr on this matter. I think that I'm really glad, actually, that he brought this forward, because I think that hospitals, frankly, have enough staff to help them with their reporting, unlike other nonprofits in our community. So I'm very supportive of this amendment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn now?
I was just going to ask for some, to make sure I understood this correctly, but I'll wait till Mr. Starr and Mr. Wheeler are done.
All right.
How many hospitals do we have applying for nonprofits?
We're holding for a second for you online for a conference between Mr. Starr and Mr. Wheeler.
Can we only speak?
Well, right now the appropriate comment is to the amendment.
Yeah, and Mr. Starr, I just want to make sure I understand the purpose here. Is the idea because most of, for example, the Providence campus is taxable because it's leased to a for-profit clinic, doctor, whatever, that the reporting needs to be, I guess, more contemporaneous due to the turnover in those properties? Is that the concept here?
Well, I don't know if there's definitely a lot of activity that goes with that. It's also a more complicated report, and there's quite a bit more money involved. I think those entities that are really in the tax-exempt status do have the staff to prepare the report. It's pretty detailed from my understanding, and I'd like to see them be proactive on it versus put the assessor on the spot too. Expand a little bit on the theory is that it would force the assessor to be a little bit more proactive in terms of reaching out as opposed to the user benefiter saying, here I apply. And, it could turn political as well. You could have the assessor just decide not to do it based on who he is at the administration level. So it's working now. They fill their reports out. I think the accountability for it is where I'm after with the comfort level of it.
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Tucker, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, thank you. I'm a little concerned, not with...
Could you speak in your mic, ma'am?
Oh, excuse me. I'm a little concerned not with Mr. Starr's intent, but I think that when it's worded this way, the subsection is unclear which subsection, and so it's not that they wouldn't be, if they're a nonprofit hospital, not that they wouldn't be entitled to the exemption. I think that what I understand from Mr. Starr is he wants to make sure that they are not exempt from the annual certification. And so I think a better way to do that would be to just take out hospital out of the wording in the C. Because the subsection is actually, the section is 12-15-015, real property exemptions, and then it drills down, and so you have subsection 4, C4, that requires annual certification, and then C4, small, tiny c, is saying, okay, but these other ones don't have to do annual certification. So if you just took out hospital from the ones that don't have to have annual certification, then you'd still have annual certification from hospitals, which is what I understand Mr. Starr said they have a big enough organization to go ahead and file that.
You mean to make the deletion on page 1, line 40, is that correct?
Mr. Flynn, just a second. Let Mr. Starr deal with it, if you don't mind.
I don't want to debate it, but Julia, it reads down under D3 and then back to subsection D, which is newly created by the author of the whole writing. So in one sense, if you look at the heading of master, big number D for any other words, capitalized D3 has the heading back in there. So what Ms. Gray Jackson's done under the first line where she says you back down under 4C, that forces the reader to come into compliance under capital D, subsection 3, and then subsection below that 3. So she's bringing us to the hospital verbiage already, and I would not want to override the state exemption on page 2, where on line 5 it says it again. So my logic in that is that I'm happy with the recertification concept. I'm just not happy that the recertification concept apply to hospitals.
So hospitals are not going to recertify?
They're not be giving that opportunity. They will be held to the higher standard by this of the annual reports due every March, which stops at D3A.
Mr. Flynn, did you want to weigh in now?
Okay. This is my concern. I drafted this in working with Marty and
I see it says prepared by the council. That's right.
Yeah. And so my concern is if I can't understand and it would be remiss of me not to tell the Assembly that I don't think this provision is going to accomplish, without a lot of ambiguity, what Mr. Starr wants to accomplish.
Well, I'm going to move to postpone then until we can sort it out. That would be helpful for the body. I believe it's a vital process. I think the author who wrote the thing intends to have the hospitals, whether it be Providence or others, go through the normal application for property tax exemptions yearly. It's an important conversation to have yearly with these bigger entities.
Mr. Starr, do you...
Madam Chair?
Just a moment, please. Nope. Mr. Starr has the floor.
Nope, I have a second to the postponement. That's what I'm
second
speaking.
it.
Need to... Do you want this meeting, sir, or next meeting?
No, we can do it. We can do it the next meeting.
All right. The motion is to postpone to the next meeting. If anybody wants to speak to that, let me know. Ms. Gray Jackson, you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to speak to our attorney's comments and basically thank her. I mean, it's very difficult when you attend a meeting by phone, and I really hate it, but I'm trying to do the best I can. And so I really appreciate her comments, and I appreciate postponing this until I'm there, because I will be there on the 22nd and around in the next few days. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Tucker.
Anyone else who wants to speak on the motion to postpone? Wait, there was a second on that, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
seconded it.
That's what I thought. Mr. Trainee was the second to the motion to postpone. All right. Seeing no one else in the is there any objection to the motion to continue to the next meeting? Hearing and seeing no objection, this matter is continued to the next meeting. All right, thank you. Moving on, the next item before us is 14L. This is AL 109. It's an ordinance approving the transfer of 7 municipal parcels in Laurel Acres subdivision from Real Estate Services to HLB. It's accompanied by AM 600. If you'd like to speak to this matter, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Did you get that? Okay. Any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing and seeing no objection, that matter is approved unanimously. The next item before us is 14M. This is AR 291. It's a resolution appropriating $38,753 from the 2011 operating budget, area-wide general fund, public transportation department to the public transportation capital projects and a Federal Transit Administration grant
Waive
of
reading.
$1,937,661 to public transportation capital fund. If you'd like to speak to this matter, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That matter is approved unanimously. We're now on 14N. This is AR 292. It's a resolution appropriating a grant from the U.S. DOT for $107,598 to the Public Transportation Department Capital Projects Fund and a contribution of $2,152 from the operating budget to the Public Transportation Department Capital Funds for the purchase of mobile display terminals. If you'd like to speak to us on this, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, the public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
That is approved unanimously. We're now at 14O. This is AR 293. It's a resolution appropriating a grant of $50,000.
Waive reading.
I'm going to have to summarize it. $50,000 from public transportation grants and $51,100 from their public transportation operating budget to assist in the funding of the coordinated transportation services beyond the ADA requirements. Anybody want to speak to us? Please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there discussion? Please vote. Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
That matter is approved unanimously. We have, we're now at audience participation. If anyone out here would like to speak to us on a matter not on the agenda, please come forward.
Again, hello, Billy Ray Powers, P-O-W-E-R-S. Now we're in the season of slogging through the snow, coming to these intersections. You know, there's a lot of stop signs that have been put in neighborhoods all over town. They sprung up here in the last 10 years like it was unprecedented. So now we've got these stop signs. You ease up to the intersection in the snow. You can see that there's no car anywhere, but you got to come to a complete stop and then start spinning your tires to get on through the intersection. Or you pull up to a main road in deep snow, you look, you see there's no cars, or there is cars quite a ways down. If you could just keep up what little momentum, just a tiny bit of momentum, you could ease out into that traffic safely instead of coming to a stop and then looking for the same opening and start spinning your wheels trying to get the inertia moving. You know, I think that Alaska, I know we're doing it like they do in California. We're building our roads the same way they are down there. We got boulevards. We got beautiful meridians. But, you know, Alaska could use, now just hear me, you know, this may be way out there and it'll probably never happen in my lifetime. But why not, like the old blinking caution sign, but what kind of sign could we have that would basically be a cautionary sign, where when you approach an intersection, and if it's safer to move on through the intersection, continue to keep your inertia up much safer. What kind of a device, a sign could we develop, maybe just for Alaska? I don't know. We don't have to do it like they do it outside. That's one thing. The other thing I want to talk about is one of the big things happening here is the Knik Arm Bridge. It's us against them. It's Mat-Su against the city of Anchorage. Hey, man, let's get in this together. Let's be part of the South Central. The only thing I got an issue with Kabata is the fact that they're spending big and thinking small. What's with a 2-lane bridge? Hey, man, if we're going to build a bridge, let's build a bridge. We need 4 lanes and maybe a middle lane. We're going to spend the money. Let's build something we can use, man, for 100 years. We're going to spend the same money rehabbing the port downtown. Why don't we build the bridge and then move all that ugly stuff? We got that tank farms and all that nasty-looking industrial stuff clogging up our beautiful front street. We could have a Pike Street market. We could develop a really nice front city area along the ocean. Send all that ugly stuff across the bridge and beyond. Okay, we talk about, we gained 100 acres down there because we filled the inlet, we drove the pilings, and we filled the inlet. Now we got a 100-acre laydown yard. Hey, how about a 100,000-acre laydown yard? We have it across the bay. We got land over there. And we can get away from the ocean front, and we can use our beautiful front for a nice development. We can have shops, restaurants.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Thank you very much. Anyone
Madam
else?
Chair?
Go ahead, Ms. Drummond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Powers, I just wanted to ask if you had seen in your neighborhood on 16th Avenue near the school that you don't take your kids to, there is a mini circle in the middle of an intersection that I ran into several weeks ago. I hadn't been on 16th, East 16th in quite some time, and I can't tell you how pleased I was to see that. I didn't have to stop, but it made me slow down.
Well, at the community council meeting, I spoke against it.
Find in one of the items that was introduced tonight for public hearing in the future, the Title IX, I believe, amendments and rewrites, which defines what a mini circle is and makes some differences in traffic. So I hope you will support the construction of mini circles in as many residential areas as possible, because that will accomplish exactly what you object to, and that's too many stop signs. Thank you.
I absolutely do not support that. That is street clutter. I spoke against it at the community council meeting. It's a nightmare for snow plowing. I mean, and take a look at it in the summer. All the edges are already barked off of it. We're paying to repair the curbs and those beautiful street clutter devices, and then we're also paying to repair the road graders. So we get to pay on both ends of this.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to us on a non-agenda item? All right. Seeing no one else? Assembly comments? Seeing none? A motion?
Motion to adjourn?
We are adjourned.